criticism of Jewish voices again is anti-Semitic. Like, there are different types of Jews, like there are different types of Germans and different types of Spaniards. Let us all speak and keep us all safe in the process. My name is Nir Volman. I was born in Israel and I'm 27 years old. I moved to Berlin almost exactly 3 years ago. I think the reasoning behind it was the adventure part of it. First of all, I was like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, I'll go back. But also, I was already feeling a bit out of place in Israel, both politically, and Tel Aviv was quite a harsh town. I think I might have made the wrong choice to live there. It's a city that is, at the time, was the most expensive city in the world. And even though I was okay financially, I felt like I was not going anywhere. And I was a bit stuck in my life. And there was a major change that allowed me to explore other parts of my personality and find a very active queer community. It's kind of like a mixture of all of these things together that brought me here. I think there's something to say about the fact about the difference between being in Israel, in the Middle East, and being in Berlin. So when you grow up in Israel, Israel is even though it's in a continent, it's an island. Our borders are closed. We don't meet people from the neighboring countries. I mean, also with the Palestinian people, you very rarely meet them. You have to be very active in seeing them. Many of my friends who live in Jerusalem today are very politically active in Safariyata, which are the shepherd communities in the South Hebron Mountain. And they are the people who actually meet the Palestinians and create connection with them. Coming to Berlin, all of a sudden you meet people from Syria and Lebanon and Iran and Egypt. And these are things that are so incredible for us, I think, for people who want to have these connections. The queer community that I found here, sometimes they're Israeli, sometimes it's mixed. We try to gather around the holidays. We bring some people from who are non-Jews to also experience this with us. They're obviously queer because we're trying to have this community around us. I think being open and having the ability to talk, that's something that's and also like debate. This was a very old Jewish practice that is in our scriptures. It was always one opinion and another opinion and then a debate that is kind of lost today in the Jewish culture. Having space for all means understanding different opinions, and sometimes things live together even if they don't completely work together. Some will say that it's not okay to be gay or queer if you're Jewish. Let them have this opinion. I mean, I can try to change. If they're open to talk, let's talk. If they're not, I have nothing to do. Yeah, having different opinions is important, and our power comes from diversity, and that's both a Jewish practice and a queer practice, and that's something to be said about how Jewishness allowed for this in the past, and it should do so again. And I think that, well, I'm calling for it at least. So I was at home. It was a Saturday morning. We woke up in bed, very quiet. And then I remember looking at my phone around 11 o'clock, and I saw a huge amount of notifications, some messages on the family group, and it was very clear that something big is happening. I remember being quite shocked. I think I didn't imagine the magnitude that this will arrive to. And I spent hours on social media that day, just sitting, scrolling nonstop. My poor ex, he was not able to understand what was going through. He's French. I think this also brought us, like those mixed couples, a lot of hardship, because the support that I needed is not something that was able to provide at the time. Just being there, and not imposing or I don't know, asking me to snap out of it. I think he didn't understand. I think it will take a long time for us to completely understand what it was and what it is. And obviously it's still ongoing for us in some way, and for the Palestinians definitely. So it will be years before we can actually understand the magnitude and the effects, the long-term effects of these things. It was a talk that I hosted in my house past October 7th. I was always very interested in this, in the conflict, how it came to be, how is this managing our lives. And I studied it for many, many years. And I felt lonely immediately after October 7th because it was clear. I mean, I woke up that day and I kind of saw the world crumbling apart. It became more extreme and more saturated. I hosted this talk and I reached out to friends, and I was very much hoping that more Palestinian and Arab people would arrive, but I think it was quite hard for people to find themselves in a spot led by an Israeli person. And also I think that talking about the history of the conflict is not what interests people anymore. And at the time it was hard for me to understand, but I think the space was a great space to talk, but it was also not touching the reality of things anymore. I think that's what was lacking, and the reality and what we're seeing today, the genocide, if we will say so, is quite an extreme development that I think it was clear to me that it might happen, but I didn't want to see it. Also, it took me a long time for me inside to accept that the use of this word, because obviously it triggers other emotions as a Jewish person, and I think as a human being, I think it's hard for you to accept that your country is committing this atrocity. I don't think that I was the one bringing the people together. I think there's a sense in the city that allows people to come together, but in the end, it comes down to the people. You want to talk to people, you want to meet people, and people are the most important thing. And that's something that we have to remember in general. Like, people and their lives and their well-being are the most important things. Well, I lived on Weserstrasse when I first came to Berlin. That was the apartment that I first moved to. When people come to Berlin now, especially Israeli people, they're being told not to go to Neukölln, which I find absurd. Again, if you want to meet people from the Middle East in Berlin, this is the hotspot. And I think, there was this moment on October 7th that there was something running on social media of how people were handing out sweets as if they were celebrating the act of liberation. I chose, even after, people told me, don't go there, don't speak Hebrew, don't show, don't be there. Don't go to Zonale, don't be on Neukölln. I heard people who say they don't feel safe, but it's so funny to see this main street of this big neighborhood who has immigrants and refugees and queer people and Israeli people all together mishmashing. I wouldn't say it's a safe space in that sense, but this place holds for me, this neighborhood or this area holds a special place in my heart, both as my welcoming in Berlin in a way, but also as the place where things melt together. And funnily enough, whenever I want to experience tastes of home, I will probably go to one of the stores along Zonale to see what they have to offer. And it's cheaper. It's cheaper than what you would find back home, which is not always best, but but it's quite interesting to explore those flavors and tastes that I find interesting and I want to honor. And I'm allowed to do so here and not so much back home. There's something to be said about our power here as people who live abroad. At the time I used social media a lot to use my voice. I think it's a lie. If you want to do something that is truly activist, go and protest. Send emails to your leaders, representatives. Do something that can actually have an effect. It felt like it doesn't matter what I would have said, I would be wrong. If I said something that calls for nuance, I would be harming my Arab and Palestinian friends. If I said something that talks about the lives of Palestinians or the horrific acts that Israel is committing right now, I would be harming my Israeli friends. And here in Berlin, now, if before that, okay, maybe people weren't extremely happy for me to be Israeli, because people are allowed to have their opinions, and again, it's not. It didn't start with October 7th. There was a change to the point that there were times that people had to vouch for me in order to arrive at a social gathering. Like, he's a good Israeli. He's okay. We know him. And I find that, I mean, there's a part of me that understands, to be fair, and I'm not the victim here, to be fair. I have this experience. It's part of my life right now. I don't know if it's ever going to change. It's okay. I mean, it's not pleasant per se, but I also am not the biggest sufferer. I'm not the one who suffers the most in this entire situation. There's something to be said about Jewish life here. I mean, Germany deals with its history in a certain way, and the German guilt that from as an outside perspective, that leads its acts, this commitment to Israel as the Jewish state, and I don't feel my life specifically as a Jew changed here as a singular person. But if you're looking at the broader leftist community of Jews, they are fighting very hard to have their voice heard, and without being called anti-Semitic or self-loathing Jews. I think this is the most absurd title to give a Jewish person. And even now, when we're talking, it's quite hard to talk about it freely. Being exposed and talking about, like, criticizing Germany in Germany, intending to stay in Germany, it's scary. Like, also, I would like it to be like, freedom of speech should be held much more dearly in this country. To say it nicely. And I think the fact that the war has been going on for so long and there have been so many civilian casualties would definitely make people dislike Israelis and Jews more. I do believe that, and I do see that the war and the way Israel behaves is actually not creating safety for Jews, as if this was, well, that's what Israel claims to do, to be the safe haven for Jews. If a space that claims to be the safest place for Jews on earth is not able to provide so, maybe we have to rethink this. Well, for me, as a Jew who grew up in Israel and immigrated, I have to redefine my Jewishness in a way. The genocide that we see in Gaza, the mass killing, it should stop. And maybe we are seeing this complicity towards those things. Not maybe, we are seeing a complicity towards those things. And, we have to demand, to challenge the norm. Again, if Germany wants to be a leading force of human rights, it's for everyone. And I think learning from our history, learning from Germany's history and the connection of Jewish and German history is not applied just for Jews. It's applied for all human beings. I think I would like to see more people going to the protests. I mean, this is our power as a civil society. We have to demand a change, and it works. We have to be present on the street. We have to use our voice. So that would be, even if you don't go all the time. I don't go all the time, but be present at least once.